Have you ever discovered that someone you loved had been keeping a secret for decades? A secret so deep that it changed everything you thought about them? Today, I'm going to tell you about my grandmother and about what I found hidden in her wood-burning stove. Something she kept secret for 50 years. If you enjoy heartwarming stories, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. I post here every day. True stories that warm the soul. And what I'm going to reveal today about her stove will move you, especially when you discover the real reason why she never told anyone about it. Still lying on the hard mattress in the back room where the wooden windows let in slivers of light, my grandmother always woke up before everyone else. I don't think even the rooster dared to crow until she was already up. She had a silent way of moving. Nothing about her made unnecessary noise. Not her footsteps, not her gestures, not her breathing. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who seemed to carry peace within him. But what gave it away was that smell. Warm, slightly sweet, and yet rustic. As if the world began there, in the burning coals. Her kitchen was bare. A wooden table scarred by years of conversation and vegetable chopping. An old cabinet with creaky doors. A clothesline stretched across the window. Drying coffee filters and dish towels embroidered with flowers and chickens. But the center of it all was the wood-burning stove. It was more than a piece of furniture. It was more than a utensil. It was almost a character in the house, with its cast iron parts, the oven with its opening door and metallic click, the griddle that creaked when the pan was dragged from one corner to the other, and the smell, always the smell. If you close your eyes right now, can you remember a smell from your childhood? One of those that transport you back in time. That morning, like so many others, I was drawn to him. I left the room barefoot, treading carefully so as not to disturb the magic that seemed to inhabit the corners of the house in the early hours. Sunlight filtered in through the cracks, illuminating dust particles in the air. As if the kitchen were a set from an old movie. She was already there, bent over the stove, a scarf tied around her head, her apron over her usual floral dress, her hands busy with the ritual of lighting the day. First the twigs, placed in a cross, then the old newspaper, folded neatly. Next, a plastic soda bottle with a little kerosene, which she kept hidden on top of the cabinet. A trickle of liquid dripped onto the paper, and with a match struck on the edge of the stove, the first flame appeared. She blew slowly. The fire grew obediently. The smell gained strength. It was the scent of the beginning of the world, of something about to happen. And then, with the flames steady, she placed the kettle of water on the hot plate and began to brew the coffee. "Are you awake yet?" he asked, without turning his face. I nodded, and she just smiled. It was all the morning needed. I sat on the kitchen bench and watched. There was a profound beauty in it all. The sequence of gestures, the attention to detail, patience with time. When was the last time you did something this calmly, with that total presence? There was no stopwatch. There was no timer. There was only the roar of the fire and the smell of morning. The coffee was strained through a cloth, as always. A filter she sewed herself, with a colorful bias binding around the edge and a small flower embroidered on the bottom, where no one could see it, but where she made sure to add beauty. She poured the hot water with a precision that bordered on dance, in slow circles, first in the center of the dust, then around the edges, as if awakening an old memory. The aroma of coffee spread and mingled with the smell of firewood. of the old kettle, of the pot of leftover beans in the corner, waiting to heat up. "Today's coffee is good," he said, slowly lifting the mug to his mouth. The water gave him time to think before it fell. I never quite understood what she meant, but over time, I learned that everything in that house had a time, even water. The wood crackled alive, the stove vibrated, and I felt safe there, in that soft warmth. In that house, without luxury, but full of presence. It smelled like real things. But that day, something was different. She looked at the stove strangely, as if carrying an invisible weight, as if carrying a painful memory. After coffee, she began the day's preparations. The lard was removed from the glass jar on the highest shelf, always covered with a dish towel and rubber band. A piece of bacon was melted in the black pot. The onion was hand-chopped directly into the air. The aroma of the stew was like a wake-up call. She did everything while the fire was on. She stirred, she covered, she uncovered. She moved the pot around. She opened the oven to check on the cornbread that was already rising. "Fire teaches you to wait," he said, and I waited. I waited for lunch to be ready. I waited for her stories to emerge slowly, between one spoonful and the next. I waited for the outside world to quiet down, just to hear what she had to tell. But that day, she didn't tell stories. I just cooked, in silence, as if something weighed on his heart. It was during lunch that I noticed something that chilled me. She was staring at a specific part of the stove, a corner I'd never noticed before, as if a ghost lived there. I remember she made cornmeal, sautéed kale, and ground beef with parsley. Simple, but it looked like a feast. Because wood-fired food has this, it feeds more than just the stomach. It feeds the memory. Do you know why certain foods taste like hugs? During the meal, she spoke slowly about when the stove was still new, about when my grandfather helped build the chimney, about when the first batch of bread burned because she forgot to check. But then she stopped. She stared at the fire dancing behind the stove door, and she said something that made my heart race. "Girl, there's something I've been carrying around for 50 years, and I've never told a soul about it." The fork stopped halfway between the plate and my mouth. The world seemed to go silent. "This stove here," she continued, touching the iron side, "it's not just for cooking. It holds a story that no one knows." She stood up slowly. She walked over to the stove. She knelt on the right side and began fiddling with a small iron door I'd never noticed before. "You won't believe what was in there." "Come here," she said, not taking her eyes off the door. I approached. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. She opened the small door, and from inside, she took out a metal box. Small, rusty, heavy. And inside the box, there was something that changed everything I thought about it. Cards. Dozens of letters, yellowed by time, tied with faded red ribbon. "These are letters I wrote," she whispered, her voice breaking. "To my first love, the one who died in the war. Before I met your grandfather." Tears streamed down my face. She continued, "I wrote one a week, for 2 years, after I knew he wasn't coming back. 100 letters he never read. The world stopped, just the crackling fire and the sound of our breathing. Have you ever kept a love secret for decades?" "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" I asked. "Because I was afraid," she replied. "Afraid that your grandfather would think I didn't really love him. Afraid that it would seem like I was living in the past. But the truth is, we can love more than one person in our lives, in different ways, at different times. She picked up one of the letters. She opened it slowly and began to read in a trembling voice. "My dear Jose, today is 800 days since you left. I still dream of you coming back along the dirt road with that crooked smile that made me forget the world. Your laughter still echoes in my memory like a church bell." Her voice trembled. The words came out like broken prayers. We spent the entire afternoon reading the letters, one by one. Each letter was a piece of a young heart, a piece of first love, a piece of a broken dream. There were happy letters. "I saw you at the market today. For a second there, I thought it was you. My heart almost jumped out of my chest, but it was just a memory playing tricks." There were sad letters. "I cried in the cornfield today, where you proposed to me. I still have the ring you made from grass. It's here, in the drawer, yellowing." There were letters of faith. "I pray every day that you are at peace, that you have not suffered, and that one day we will meet up there, where there is no war or separation." Have you ever written to someone who can no longer respond? And there were letters of gratitude. "Thank you for teaching me to love, for showing me how big the heart can be. Now I know I can love your grandfather too, in a different way, but true." Each letter was a piece of soul, a piece of suspended time, a piece of love that never ended. It only changed form. "Why did you keep them here?" I asked. "Because fire protects," she replied. "Fire doesn't judge, and besides, every time I cooked, I felt it close, as if the letters were a bridge between what was and what is." Late that afternoon, she picked up a specific letter, the last one, written the day she met my grandfather. "My dear Jose, today I met a good man. He has kind eyes and hard-working hands. I think you would approve. He won't erase you from my heart, but he will help me be happy again. Thank you for preparing me for this, for teaching me that true love isn't possessive, it's liberating." The silence that followed was profound, full of pain, but also full of peace. As the sun began to set, she put the letters back in the box, carefully, like someone cradling a precious memory. "Now you know," she said, "the stove doesn't just store food. It also stores history. It also stores love." She put the box back in its hiding place. She closed the small iron door, and we stood there, in silence, listening to the fire crackle. How many different loves can fit in one heart? "Do you regret it?" I asked. "Of love?" she replied, smiling. "Never. We don't regret feeling the sun on our skin, even when it sets." That night, dinner tasted different, as if each bite were seasoned with history, with truth, with courage. She cooked as always, but now I knew. Every movement she made at the stove was also a prayer, a memory, a way to keep what mattered alive. "Are you going to tell anyone?" she asked before we went to sleep. "Only when it's important," I replied. And she smiled. It was the smile of someone who had finally shared the burden, of someone who was no longer alone with the secret. That night, I slept with the smell of the stove clinging to my hair, to my clothes, to my soul. But now it was different. It wasn't just the smell of burning wood. It was the smell of revealed truth, of found courage, of love that never ends. It just changes address. Years later, when my grandmother passed away, I found the box again. Along with it was a new letter, written to me. "My dear granddaughter, if you are reading this, my time has come. Take care of the letters for me. They are proof that we can love many times, and that each love is sacred, and it continues. Don't be afraid to love, nor to lose, nor to love again. The heart is not a cup that breaks. It is a spring that never runs dry. The more love goes out, the more love comes in. Today, in my own home, I have a wood-burning stove. Small, simple, but with the same soul. And every morning, when I light the first match, I feel her presence, and his, and my grandfather's, and all the loves that have passed through that kitchen. Because true love doesn't compete, it multiplies. And find a place F, everyone in the same heart. If this story touched you, tell me in the comments. What secret has someone special shared with you? What revelation changed the way you see a loved one? Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because every day I bring you stories that touch the soul, memories that teach us about life and about love. And tomorrow, I'll share another secret of my grandmother's with you, this time about the drawer she kept locked in her room and what we found inside after she left. A discovery that revealed a hidden talent, one she cultivated in silence throughout her life. Until then, remember, every story is a thread, every memory an embroidery in time. And some embroidery is done with threads of colors that only the heart can see.